Hey, welcome to episode 80 of the Gig Life podcast. I'm your host, Stevie Taylor. I hope you're safe. I hope you're well. Before we chat with Carmen Smith, I just wanted to let you know that due to the COVID-19 restrictions, I haven't been able to meet up in person with Carmen, nor the last few episode guests have been having to do the podcast via video link. So please keep that in mind if you hear any sound glitches as such. Also, I want to tell you how you can subscribe to the Gig Life podcast. Go to thegiglifepodcast.com, scroll to the bottom of that first page, click on the red button, pick your favourite podcast app and hit that subscribe button. Easy as that, eh? You can even set it to automatic download so all the new episodes get delivered straight to your app. Also, if you dig the Gig Life podcast, you can share it with your friends or on your socials. The Gig Life podcast is free. You don't have to pay anything ever. But if you find the value in the show, you can securely donate. Go to thegiglifepodcast.com and click on that donate button. You can give as little or as much as you like. Any donation will go back into creating the great content for this podcast. Sweet as, episode 80, Carmen Smith. Here we go. My guest today is Carmen Smith. Carmen, originally from Western Sydney, is a singer-songwriter and performer who has worked, toured and written extensively with some of Australia's best artists. Her first experience as a backing vocalist came in 2004 with Guy Sebastian and his first national tour. Since that time, Carmen has performed and toured with Diesel, Mauboy, Stan Walker, Diana Rouvas, Ricki Lee, Rahsaan Patterson, Roachford, Tina Arena and many more. Carmen joined the cast of The Voice in 2012 and became the first contestant to ever be disqualified from the show, and that was for breaking the spirit of the rules by appearing in Guy Sebastian's music video. But hey, no big deal. That experience actually raised her profile quite a bit, and from that she's gone on to release more solo music, which included one of the coolest music videos I've ever seen, and she's continued to tour and perform with the best in Australia as one of the most sought after voices in the game. Carmen is as real as it gets, a unique talent, a big heart, and it was a really cool hang. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the one and only Carmen Smith. Cheers. I think we're rolling. Carmen Smith, welcome to the Gig Life podcast.
Thanks, Stevie.
How's it going?
From Melbourne.
From Melbourne,
Oh.
yeah.
It's good. It's bloody cold here.
Oh, is
That's
it?
what it is.
Yeah, it's a little bit chilly here today in Sydney.
Is it?
Yeah, still got t-shirt.
But, Melbourne, it's not unexpected, is it?
Right.
It's freezing all the time.
So they say Melbourne weather's a little bit like Wellington, except
Yeah,
probably not
correct.
as windy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
It's basically cold and windy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Obviously, COVID-19's hit, and I have sort of mentioned this in the last couple of podcasts, but it is the topic at the moment. We're here, we're in it. I want to ask you what the full impact of it has been. Well, up to this point anyway. Regarding to sort of how much work you had planned, was there tours, Yeah, and how are you sort of navigating that at the moment?
Well, we're kind of like 2 weeks into. Oh, actually, maybe a bit more than 2 weeks into it. But the day before it was, the government came out saying it was a pandemic.
Yep.
I had just finished a run of gigs with Evelyn Champagne King,
mm-hmm.
which is like a disco. She's like an 80s disco legend.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it with Mondo Freaks, a Melbourne band.
Mm-hmm.
And we had just finished. And it was weird because the night before I said, this coronavirus thing that's going around, I'm a little bit worried about it. And some of the bands were like, nah, it's fine. Like, I think it's just going to be past. And literally the next day it was called a pandemic. And then within a week of that, all the gigs got cancelled.
Wow.
It's just such a weird, even now I don't know what to say. I know that there was some stuff in the works because my life is just, it's literally gig to gig and tour to tour.
Right.
But there was tours in the works for Guy. I work with Guy Sebastian.
Mm-hmm.
And we were supposed to do Blues and Roots Fest, actually. That was the first cancellation.
Right.
It was like, it just became very clear as the week went on that this was not going away and that we were pretty much going to lose. And just from that moment, I lost that gig and then all the other corporates that were coming up. And then within the space of 2 days, was it? I think it was just like, yeah, okay, we're pretty much in lockdown.
Mm.
That was it. It's such a weird time to be around music, in the arts, really.
Yeah. Is your husband a working musician? Is that his?
Yeah, he plays bass for Diesel.
Oh, so really? Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So his gigs got canned as well.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know. It's still weird because we're in April now, so it's been maybe 3 weeks of this. And I've been staying in contact with a lot of the guys in the bands that I work with, and just we're all in the same place. A lot of them teach at uni as well,
mm-hmm.
so at least they've got that. But I don't have that kind of regular work.
Right.
So trying to navigate myself through this time, and also I have a 2-year-old son, is it's tough. It's tough. I mean, I told you just before we started this that I've had a really shit weekend.
Yep.
I just was pissed off for I don't know why. I couldn't get out of a funk,
mm-hmm.
and it was probably because I was like, I should be gigging, I should be doing something.
Yep.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah. You just mentioned, how you had that sort of bad day. We just came back from a family walk.
Mm-hmm.
We've been trying to get out as much as we can, walk around the block, and my oldest daughter, she's been really positive. Like, she's very aware. I mean, she's 10. She's aware that they've been at home for a few weeks from school, and she's starting to miss her friends. But we found out today that one of her friends, her mother, they were planning to move back to New Zealand at the end of the year.
Right.
Her business has just been decimated, so they're going back to New Zealand in 3 weeks. So of course my daughter's not going to see a friend, and so she's really starting to kind of.
That's when reality hits for kids, I reckon.
Yeah.
When they can't see their mates or say goodbye to their friends.
Yeah. Just we can't see them in person to say goodbye and give them a hug, but we're just teeing up some FaceTime chats, and so that's pretty cool. And,
I mean, lucky we live in a generation we can do this. Before.
I reckon. I reckon.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm trying to stay positive about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you've probably seen on my Instagram, I'm trying to just get into playing and stuff when my son's not pulling at my jumper, but I'm just trying to do something. I have to keep my voice going.
Yeah.
I can't just not sing.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to drummer Hamish Stewart today, and he told me he's just been 2-3 hours on the pad, on the practice pad.
I mean, that's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it
that's
is.
a good thing.
He goes, I'm just trying to keep my hands going for when we get the all go and we go back to work.
Yeah.
You know, so you got to keep your craft up, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, and I've always, I mean, the whole Instagram kind of putting singing up, I haven't done it. People who know me I just never do it.
Right.
I don't know why I didn't in the past.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's awesome.
It kind of just made me cringe a little bit, but I just thought, no, I have to just, I feel like we're also at the dawn of a new age and you can't just sit around and things are changing too fast for us to just kind of like, I'm just going to stick to my little world.
Yeah. They're changing hourly. Literally hourly, aren't they?
Literally every day that I think for a good 2 weeks there, it was like, something new's happened.
Yeah.
I've stopped watching the news so much.
Right.
Can't do it anymore.
I've subscribed to the Australian government WhatsApp.
Yes.
That's all I look at. That's all I look at now. I just wake up in the morning and I hit number 1 and it gives the numbers and then the latest news and then that's it. I'm out.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Anyway, let's roll back to early days, Carmen Smith. You were born and raised Western Sydney?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mount Druitt.
Mount Druitt, yep.
Yep. Pretty much until I was an adult. I was in the western suburbs.
Yep.
My dad and my mum were taxi drivers and then they owned a pizza shop all in the west area. And I don't know, I'm the youngest of 7.
Okay.
So I mean, my family are pretty musical anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So being the youngest, I kind of stole. My influences are what my siblings were listening to.
Right, and what's that?
Basically.
What was that?
I have memories of Anita Baker.
Oh, cool.
And Whitney and a lot of singers and Michael and Prince and my sister, because my sister's a guitarist, so she was listening to all the cool stuff. And then as I got older, I kind of discovered R&B, but I felt like, especially down in the West, you know, we just weren't getting. I remember my cousin coming from Auckland and bringing Babyface over and all these artists I'd never heard of. I was like, what is this new world of R&B I've never heard?
Right.
And I just said to her, where are you getting this music? She said, from New Zealand. I was like, oh my gosh, how do I find this music? And then I found a local record store that was selling those records.
Right.
And I was there every single day. What is this? Can I listen? And he just let me listen to the albums and then go because I couldn't afford to buy it. Every day he's like, hi, Carmen.
Right.
But yeah, my parents always encouraged my singing. I think from an early age they had a show off on their hands.
Right.
And I was like, Mum, Dad, listen to this. Look what I can do. And then they just put me in dancing and piano. Like literally my whole, I reckon from the age of 5 to like 15, my whole life was taken up by athletics, like extracurricular activity, athletics, swimming, dancing, singing, piano.
Right.
Just for as long as I can remember. But the piano, I just never stuck. My mum's a pianist.
Right.
But it just never stuck. I was like, this classical music is boring. I was just like, I don't see how this relates to the music that I like.
Right.
But at that time, there wasn't people teaching you that kind of stuff, contemporary.
Right.
So, but my parents were like 100% behind me. They were just like, we know you want to do this, just keep going. And then by the time I finished year 12, I was like, all right, let's go. I just want to get out of here and go to the big city. And that's pretty much what I did. But do you know the magazine Drum Media?
Oh yeah.
Does that still exist?
No, it doesn't.
Oh.
No, I got my first gigs through Drum Media when I first came to Australia. Yeah, so did a lot of us. Yeah.
Well, anyone who remembers Drum Media knows that it was just like a what was it? It was like a newspaper
Yeah,
for
musos,
ads,
musician, or not just musicians, just a
but
music.
producers and
Yeah, and just ads for shows and gig guides and
that's the one.
there'd be interviews with the band, the
Yeah.
big band that was coming to town, and then at the back
Yes.
there was
It was all the ads.
all the buy and
little ads.
the buy and sell, and then musicians
Yes.
available. You know.
Well, my dad was like, had subscribed to that.
Yep.
And that's pretty much how he just was like, how do I get my daughter into the industry?
Oh,
so he
cool.
just would highlight things and ring people. But remember that I was like 14 at the time.
Right.
I mean, we know now that it's like, you know, a lot of the people that he went to and just gave his hard-earned cash to make demos for me were just absolute rubbish.
Just shonk
and
as.
it still pisses me off. I'm like, if I ever see that, it just annoys me to think that like they spent that much money for me. But I think it was just my dad going, how do I get my daughter out? Because I just think my dad was like my biggest fan. So he was just like, how does people hear her? So he just did that for ages, karaoke contests. I hated them.
Yep.
The weird thing is like I was a show off at home, but I was terribly shy anywhere else.
Right.
In the comfort of my home, I was cool because I had my siblings and that was safe. Little bubble for me.
Yep.
But outside of that, it was like, why are you forcing me to do this stuff?
Right.
But it was just my dad going, like, he could see talent and he's just like, why don't you want? So he would say things like, you don't want this. And I was like, I do, but just not like this, just not forced. But, you know, he's his dad.
Yep.
He's my dad.
Yep.
I'm my biggest fan. So I get what he was doing. It was just like, I think it frustrated him that I wasn't more like, yeah, I'm amazing. Like at home I was, but so he was like, why can't you just do that for other people? I was like, because I don't know them. I don't know these weirdos. But so by the time I was 18 and ready to, he was still looking at ads in Tron Media. And then he found through, I can't remember how he met this lady, her name was Tash. And she was just kind of, she knew a lot of musicians. And the first meeting my dad goes, do you want to manage my daughter? I mean, bless him, like, he had no idea. He's a taxi driver. He was just like, you seem to know people. And she said yes, weirdly. And then that's kind of how I started in the industry. It's weird to think, but yeah, she introduced me. She said, oh, Carmen, you have to meet a friend of mine. I was like, okay, cool. I just was like, cool. I don't know. I'm not in school anymore. Sweet. I was just happy to be singing to somebody. And she said, oh, look, he's a musician. And we get to the cafe. It was just a cafe meeting with her. And he just looked like he was doing her a favor. Like he was just being nice. She was like, you have to meet this girl. And so I met. And she goes, Carmen. They were chatting for a bit. And then she said, Carmen, sing to him. I was like, now at the cafe. And she was like, yeah, just do it. I was like, and he just looked really awkward. But this person that I was singing to was, I don't know if you know Dennis Dowlett.
I've heard that name. So
Dennis and Darren, his brother, were in a group called Caleb.
Ah, right, okay.
And they had just started this record company with two other co-owners, George and Matt, and they had just signed Jeremy Gregory.
Yep.
You know Jeremy?
Yep.
Yeah. So amazing singer.
Yep.
I knew he was from the moment I met him because I'm just a music fan.
Right.
So I was like, oh my God, it's Caleb. It's Dennis. And so I was freaking out. And then this lady, Tasha, she was like, sing to him. I was like, what? So I sing to him and he didn't say a word. He just kind of put his coffee down and he was like, cool. I was like, oh my God, I blew it. What am I doing here? I'm singing in the middle of a cafe in Bondi. And then we didn't hear anything. And like 2 days later, Tash got a call from him and he was like, well, that's one of the best voices I've ever heard.
Oh, awesome.
So we want to sign her. Just from me singing at a cafe. I think I've sang an Angie Stone song or
Right.
whatever song came to my head at that moment.
Yep.
And it just like that. So like I'm just this kid out of school, the western suburbs, and then all of these things were happening. So in my head, I'm going, wow, it's like this is it. Like I'm signed and these guys know what they're doing and this is amazing. But I was also a kid who had I'd grown up with my dad and my mum telling me, you're the best and you're amazing and you can do it. So I think I just had this kind of skewed version of what the reality of the music business was, because I'd never experienced anything. So this happened so quickly after school that I thought, oh my gosh, this is it. This is how it happens. And from that moment, they basically, because they were busy with Jeremy, he had just released his single. Sorry, my phone.
All good.
Just silence it. He had just released his single, so they were busy doing that. And I think they just were like kind of figuring out who I was as an artist.
Yep.
Probably one of the things that I didn't realise is that I didn't know who I was. I was 18. And I think looking back on it, on that time, I think they realised pretty quickly that I didn't know who I was. So in fairness to them, by the way, this record deal kind of fizzled out a few years later. But I think it was, in fairness, they just realised that I just didn't know who the hell I was. And I was 18. I just was like this, lived in this bubble with my siblings.
So were they kind of wanting you to know who you were? Or because I'm sure I know of other cases where record companies have picked up somebody and know for a fact that they don't know who they are and they just go, we can mold this one. We can make this product, you know?
Yeah, I think like at that time, Jeremy was a bit older. He was, he had a bit more life experience. I think it just dawned on them really quickly that I was quite innocent and a kid, a bit naive,
right.
Very like, but then they made a few suggestions to me that I was like, no, that's not me. And I think that's when they went, oh, she's actually not that easy to mold.
Right. Okay, cool.
Because, maybe I didn't know who I was, but I knew that some of the things that they were saying, I was like, nah, man.
Yeah.
I don't sound like that. Really? That's what you hear when you hear my voice?
Right.
Nah. And so, it just, I went from being like this young kid who was like, yay, I'm signed, to what's happening. It's literally silence. There's nothing's happening. And I love those guys like George, who was one of the members of that record company. We still work together. He's Guy's tour manager.
Oh, cool.
He's such a legend. He became my publisher later on.
Right.
But it just became clear that it was kind of moving in different directions, what we saw, the product being. I was pretty headstrong, weirdly. I was shy and reserved.
Why do you say weirdly? What, because you were shy?
Because I was shy, but I just kind of knew that what they wanted from me was, at that time, as an 18-year-old, I was not ready I didn't have the confidence to pull off. I think they probably wanted me to be a bit sexier or whatever, and I hadn't hit that point yet. I wasn't ready for it. So, the good thing about that was that it got me into writing songs. So I started writing. They just put me with a whole heap of different people, which is weird in itself, I find. It's like, hi, nice to meet you. Let's be intimate, let's write an intimate song. I don't know you, but let's do this in a day.
Right.
That was another thing that was like, whoa, I don't know if I'm cut out for this kind of writing.
Right.
But I did meet amazing people, and that's how I met my husband.
Okay.
He was one of the writers that they suggested. and we just hit it off. Like musically, I felt like, oh my gosh, I remember saying to my parents, like, I want this guy to produce my record, because I felt like we were just in sync when it came to how we thought about music and musical choices.
That's great.
So, but within that time, I think by the time I was about 21, it was pretty clear that nothing was going to happen with this record of mine that I was supposedly meant to write. And Darren also, so I spoke about Dennis and Darren.
Yep.
Darren passed away sadly at that time as well. Oh. He was only 27 maybe, I think, 27. But he was really ill, and then it was just like, okay, it's time to just let this go, this part of my life. And Rich was the one that actually said, I think you should just keep writing because you're good at it. You should just don't fall into a funk and don't be depressed. This is not the end of the world. You're like 21. But of course, in my head, I was like, yeah, you're right. But really, I was like, oh, yeah.
What were you writing? Do you remember what you were writing about back then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things I knew nothing about. No, there were a few things I did, but I remember writing a song with Darren actually before he passed away, long before. And it's still, like, I can still hear the song in my head. I know it off by heart. It was such a good song. But sadly that never got released. But, yeah, I was writing about, love and breakups and things, because I was so heavily influenced by the Whitney songs and all the heartbreak songs you hear. You know what to write about.
Yeah.
You know, people love a heartbreak song.
Yep.
I love a heartbreak song.
Yep.
Or an angry song that was the stuff I was kind of writing about. I don't know if it was now I look back and I go, wow, Carmen, yeah, no idea, but okay.
Got to start somewhere though, eh? You got to.
Well, yeah, I mean, it got my songwriting skills up.
Yeah.
And that's how I kind of went into the world of songwriting with Rich, and I got signed by George, who was one of the co-owners of Bond Records. I got signed to his publishing company. Right. So I was there, and that's how I kind of started writing songs for other people through my own stuff, which was weird for me because I was like, oh man, I want to release an album. Why am I writing songs for other people?
Right, so that publishing, is that Peer Music? Yeah, right.
Peer Music.
Yeah, are you still there today?
No, because Rich was signed to them.
Okay.
My husband was signed to them, and then they signed me as well because they were like, because in 1 year, Rich and I got about 5 cuts on records. Awesome. And I think they were just like, we're on to something. So they signed me too. But I don't know, songwriting was a weird one for me because it was at a weird time where I felt like I should be working on my own record.
Right.
But instead I'm writing, because when you're assigned to a publisher, that's it. It's like, okay, we need you to write a song for this person and it needs to be this vibe. Yep. And I'm sitting there going, I don't care about who am I writing for. So I had to get over my own frustrations and ego with that stuff at the time because I was young too. I felt like, what am I doing? I'm 22 or whatever. And now I'm already old news. I've got to write for people. Yeah. And like, if I'm being completely honest, sometimes it was like they'd come in for a session because in that time of like I didn't know what was happening with the record company, Rich got me, he kind of kicked my ass a little bit in the studio and he was like, no, you can learn to record yourself. You can learn to do this stuff yourself. I'm not sitting here doing it for you now. It's like, okay.
That's cool.
Which is good. I feel like a good kick in the butt for everyone is when you need it is important.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just remember like sometimes having singers that were signed to like major record labels in there. I'm thinking they are so rubbish.
You can say shit. You asked me before if you could swear.
Oh,
that was
so shit. And I had to sit there and record them and tell them what to sing and tell them how to sing it. Oh, and let me write the song for you as well.
Yeah.
It was just, so for me, for someone who at 18 was like, yeah, I'm going to write my record, and then to be there like 4 years later helping some rubbish person, singer, write theirs was like super frustrating for me. But now I can look back on that time and go, I learned so much. Like just being able to produce a track, even a demo, a crappy demo.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that stuff by through all that frustrating time. I learned how to record myself, how to do vocals, how to write a song, how to record someone else, tell them what to do. So, I mean, I can look back at it now, but at the time I was like, oh my gosh, when is this going to... And that's the reality. It's like when I was 16, 17, and then I get signed at 18, it's like, woo, and then 22, it hits you, and you're like, right. Okay, it's not exactly how you think it's going to be.
Yeah. Were you gigging as well? Were you singing in any bands? And did you hit the? Were you on the cover band scene or anything like that?
No. Okay. See, the covers thing was like it's weird how it all happened for me. But just as I was going out of that record deal, I got asked to do an audition by Carl Dimitaga, amazing guitarist. He was playing in Guy's band, and I got asked to audition for Guy. And he had just won Idol. This is the other thing, is that the whole world was transitioning to this new thing of reality TV and pop stars. And so, you know, I don't know if you remember how much of a phenomenon Idol was that time. That first year was like, it just took over. And then, and that changed everything in the songwriting world as well, because it was like everyone was pitching just to these shows. That was all you were pitching for then. You were just writing songs for this. So I got asked to audition for Guy's thing with Natasha, actually.
Right.
Natasha and I did the audition together.
Yep.
Yeah, and then it was like that. They were like, oh, Guy wants you to sing on his national tour.
Oh, cool.
I was just, and at that time, I had only been working on lead vocals. So I was like, how the hell I can do harmonies on my tracks.
Yep.
But doing it live for someone else is like a whole other thing. So I had to just make this switch in my brain. So I just was like, all right, I got this gig, and he was massive. This was like he just won 2004, and I was like, all right, I'm going to learn the back to front, this stuff. Like, and Daryl was the music director for that.
Yep.
Daryl Beaton.
So this wasn't the Idol band touring, was it? This was
no. So this is Guy. Guy released another album called The Beautiful Life.
Yep.
So it was kind of his first foray outside of Idol, and he still had the fro, and I was a kid, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how this has happened. Now I'm a backing vocalist. Because people ask me all the time, how did you get into the industry? It's like, that's literally how I did it. I don't know. I just did this audition, and it was like, he likes your voice, cool. So then I remember walking into the room, like I was still, I don't know how old I was, like 20, 21, 22. I was still a kid, and I walked into this room, and the first person I saw was Gary Pinto. And I just lost my mind. I was like, oh my God, CDB.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my, I had posters of you in my room.
Did you?
Holy crap. And the thing is, I had gone to watch covers gigs, but I hadn't, at that point, I wasn't really doing any covers gigs.
Yep.
I was in a different world. So then I walked in, and I see this room of crazy good musicians, just people I'd heard about, like, just amazing. Prinny Stevens was in the band. Derek Antunes on drums. Who else? Daryl. I was just like in awe. So I was just like, okay, I can't stuff this up. I've never done backing vocals. What if I suck at it? So I just learnt every single part there possibly was, just because I was like, I can do this. Because at that time as well, I wasn't working. I was just like waitressing.
Yep.
So I was just like, cool, I'm going to make some money from singing finally. So I went and did that, and it was a very, like, he had dances, he had the whole bit. This was when it was just guy fever. And then after that, it just was quiet for me again. And I had this high, and then it was just, okay, now what? Now what do I do? So I just kept the songwriting, because I was on a 5-year deal for publishing. So I kept doing that stuff. But I think for all of that time, I was still frustrated. I was just like, why am I not doing my own stuff?
Just going back to the backing vocal thing. Did you have like a mentor there? Could you go to Guy or go to one of the other singers and say, you know, because you were saying you hadn't done the backing vocal thing before. You got to try and work that. Okay, right, and the blending and
Gary is the. I don't know if you know Gary. Very well, but
not personally, no.
He is just the most generous, selfless singer and person you will ever meet. And I think he could just tell that I was just like, what have I entered into? And he just guided me. But the whole way through, and he has done my whole career. Like some of the biggest gigs I've ever done, if I think back on it, Gary's always been there.
Right.
Almost every single part of my life. Gary's always been there. We just seem to just find each other all the time. And so he got me through that. He would sing me over and over my parts if I was nervous. And he'd always say, Carmen, you've got it. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this kind of stuff. And then there was choreography.
Yeah, right.
Which I was cool with because
you're a dancer.
Dancing.
Yeah.
Well, dancing, I can't say that. I never say I was a dancer because I feel like there are actual genuine professional dancers out there who I consider dancers. I wasn't that. I just think I did the dance lessons as a kid, and then I can I can follow choreography.
Right.
But I wouldn't say I'm a dancer.
Okay.
But yeah, like Gary's been that person for me, for sure. He's just guided me through. And Rich, my husband, he's taught me a lot, and he pushed me hard. I remember I used to think that he was really hard on me, and he'd get me to tears in the studio, but I know now that it was because he was always like, I've always thought you were great, like you were good, but I just was trying to help you to be great.
Yep.
And so I'm sorry if it ever came out like I was being harsh, but because honestly we would spend late nights in the studio, and he just like, I remember him saying to me once, he'd hate that I'm telling this story, but I remember him just saying, are you going to sing it with feeling, or should we just go to dinner or something? And I just broke down in tears, and he's like, you just have to stop thinking, just sing. We shouldn't be here doing 50 takes, like 3 max, and then you should. And that's like he taught me to be precious about the right things in singing, like notes, whatever. Did you get a feeling when was there? Because he was like, I don't care about your notes, and if you can do all the notes in the world, but if I don't feel anything when you sing something, I don't care. And so I always find that if I do more than 3 takes of anything now, it's rubbish.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but at that time, I definitely needed that kind of kick in the butt, especially like Gary is so nice. He would never say anything mean or nasty, and neither would Rich, but they were the kind of people that I needed, or I felt like I needed, because I like I said, my beautiful family, but it was a bubble. So coming into this world where it's like, no, you actually have a lot to learn. You're good, but you still got a hell of a lot to learn. And I think those realizations was a lot to happen to me in a short time. It was like, whoa, okay, wow, I'm all right. I'm pretty good. And Rich said to me once, he was like, there's a lot of luck involved in this industry as well. Like, you're 22 and you're about to do like the biggest act in the country right now. You're about to go and do his tour. That doesn't just happen to anyone. There's a lot of luck involved. He said, I'm not saying that you're not good. It's just there's luck as well. And the more and more that I've been in the industry, I understand what he was trying to say to me. It wasn't him saying, oh, you're just lucky, but he's saying there's an element of luck in everything they do. Because he said to me, and I suppose that's why we're touching on covers gigs, he said to me, you're 22, you haven't had to go out and do the nasty, crappy gigs.
Cut your teeth type thing, yeah.
Yet.
Yes,
and he's like, and here you are. Like, I know so many singers that would want that gig.
Yeah.
So many singers. And here you are, this kid, just coming in and doing an audition and getting a gig. And when he put it like that, I was like, you're right. And so basically I just, from that moment, that guy gig, I was just like, I just shut up and I just learned as much as I could. I watched everybody and I just said, yep, I can do that. Even if it was a lie, I would just like, yep, I can do it. Yeah, I've got this. Because it was like this would be wasted if you didn't pay attention.
Yep.
You know? And so then after that guy tour, there was nothing. It was very quiet. I was just waitressing. Now, the whole waitressing thing happened because Rich made a really, when we were recording, he said, you've got such a unique tone and voice that I don't think you should go and do covers gigs. And I was like, but I need money and I need experience. Like, I need to do this. And he said, I know, but if you can hold off and not do that right now, you should, because there's something to be said for not singing covers, because if you sing covers night after night, week after week for years and years, because eventually you start to copy the singer, the original singer, and you start losing what he was like. And I wouldn't want that for you. I don't want you to lose your uniqueness ever, because it's awesome, and that's what makes you that's what makes people love your voice. There's your tone, the way you pronounce words. And so I took his advice. I was like, I mean, I respected him and I respect him and trust him. So I was like, yeah, okay. I understood what he was saying. So I just went out and I just waitressed for like 5 years maybe until the end of Idol, actually, all that Idol stuff, about 2008. And it's only now in hindsight I understand what he meant about covers gigs. In saying that, it's not to say that I didn't do covers gigs. It was just, it happened at a completely different way for me.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
And so I did start doing covers later on. I'm going to say like maybe 2008 or 9. It was like, okay, we wanted a whole group of mine, Michael Dolce, Michael Barber, a keyboard player, Rich, and Scotty Applin as well. Who, do you know Scotty?
I don't know him personally. I know who he is. Yep.
Yeah. So he, Michael and Scott Scotty's the music director for The Voice.
Yep.
And we just wanted to do a fun project together because we'd worked together. And so we just started doing covers, and that's when I finally started doing covers gigs. But by then, 2008, I already knew I knew my voice.
Yeah.
I knew who I was.
Yep.
So at that point, Rich just felt if I went too early and did it as a teenager into like my 20s, that it would set how I sung forever on.
Right.
But because I didn't, and I waited until I had found my own voice and knew what I do, covers never sounded like covers. I just sung them the way I would sing them.
It's almost like he's a Jedi. See, that's some pretty amazing advice. Yeah.
I think it was because he was a songwriter and producer.
Yep.
And he had just spent so many years before even meeting me doing that stuff.
And he would have seen it.
Is that he had seen it.
Yep.
And he, I mean, once we were together, this is like pre us getting together is when he was saying this. But after we got together, he was probably a bit more honest with me, and he was like, I remember hearing your voice and going, holy shit.
Yep.
Like, how is this girl 18 or 19?
Right.
But he goes, I don't want to make a big spectacle of it. And I appreciate that now. I appreciate him not being so like, oh my God. Because I think, like I said, that bubble that I grew up in, it's like my parents love me. They were always going to tell me amazing. But when you don't get a reaction like your parents would give you, like, oh, okay. All right. So he made me work really hard and he pushed me really hard. But because I respected and loved him, I was like, okay, cool. I'm just going to do this. Let's do it. You tell me what I need to learn and I'll learn it.
That's great. That's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, aren't we all students? I feel like every time I work with somebody, I'm still learning something.
Totally.
About my singing and what I need to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So during that break when you were waitressing, you made it sound like it was a good 4 or 5 years. Was that 4 or 5 years doing nothing? Like no gigs, no tours?
Oh, no. I mean, I was.
There was other stuff. Okay.
Yeah. Like I did tour. After the guy thing, there's a good year break, I reckon.
Okay. Where
there wasn't much. And I was a newbie. No one really knew of me because I wasn't in the cover scene either.
Right.
So I was like, who? And then I got a call from my friends, Michael Dolce and Rich got a call, I think, about doing some singing for, do you remember the Young Divas?
Yeah.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
This time. Oh, gosh. But so basically for those of you who aren't privy to the Young Divas, there was 4 girls from Idol that were like solo singers that were all put together in a group called the Young Divas, and they were singing like old disco songs. And it took off, but they needed a backing singer. And I remember specifically saying, why? There's 4 of them.
Yeah.
Why do they need?
Yeah.
But it turns out that they were each doing their own
solo,
as well as they were doing their own little solo bits, and they needed someone.
Right.
So there I was for 2.5 hours just on my own. It was just like the secret 5th member. It was weird.
So you were the sole backing vocalist, right?
just me.
Right.
It was so odd. But yeah, so I did that, and then I did a little run with. Do you know Rahsaan Patterson?
No.
He's a US kind of R&B singer. I mean, and I was a kid then too, and far out. This guy's voice is insane, insane. But I just remember that tour because I was a baby, and his voice was just, and I thought, I can't do this gig. This guy's ridiculous. He's on another level of singing. But I did it, and I still remember that gig as being just one of the most enlightening, as in he was the person that just would do this in the middle of a gig. He'd kind of just look at you and point at you, and you just had to riff.
Oh, right.
Again, I was the sole backing singer.
Right. There's some pressure right there. Far out.
I know, and for someone who's never like really done covers, or he was just like, what do you mean? And he looked at me one night and he just gave me a look, and from that moment I just went nuts. And he said, I remember him coming after he goes, okay, let's talk about our favourite moments from the show. And I said, okay, you go. And he goes, Carmen solo.
Cool.
I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you, it was just a masterclass in vocals watching him. So, I mean, I did do gigs. That's the thing. I did the tour, but a tour in Australia.
Yeah.
Is like a little run of gigs.
It's like the main cities and a few
like
sort of
main cities.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not enough to keep you going. But then not long after that, I got a call to do, because at the time I had been doing some sessions, like jingles and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I got somebody had suggested me to Erin Clark, who was doing the she was like vocal coach on Australian Idol. I got a call from her. Actually, Natasha, she's just everywhere. I was at Natasha's house helping her move. She was living in a house in Bellevue Hill, and she was moving 2 doors down. And I had this weekend free, and her and I literally moved everything from one apartment to 2 doors down. And I distinctly remember this day because a bird shat on my head. And then I got a call because I was like, I have no work. I'm just waitressing. Am I going to get a call again? Because there's always that thing. It's like, is anyone ever going to call me? And the bird shat on my head, and then my phone rang. And it was Erin Clark asking me if I wanted to sing on Australian Idol this season. I was like,
wow.
Oh, my God. If that's not the bird shitting on my head giving me good luck, I don't know what is. Yeah, and that started my whole thing on TV.
Yep.
And of course, Gary was there. It was me and Gary. So after the Guy thing, I didn't really hear from Guy after that. I think he did another tour, but they had a smaller band, and so I was kind of off doing my own thing. Mm-hmm. So at that time, I wasn't really working with Guy, and he had a couple of changes, and but then I met up with Gary in 2000 and I can't even tell you. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But I think it was about 2006, and I did three seasons of Australian Idol, but I kept waitressing because it wasn't enough. It still wasn't enough to just quit all my work, and I wanted to keep that going. Yeah. So I didn't. Not to be a snob, but it was just like, I don't want to lose what makes me unique, so I'm just going to do waitressing and do Idol.
Gotcha.
And that'll be it. And in that time, I met Jessica Mauboy. Mm-hmm. She needed a singer, and she was a baby. Like, this is before she released her big album. And we did a whole heap of writing together. So she came over and hung out with us, and we did writing. This is when they're trying to figure out what she was. But the thing is, you see, like Jess in the studio, it's like, no, that's a singer. Mm. Everything was so easy. She was just like, yeah, I can sing that. She was just her vocals are insane, and it was easy.
Yep.
So I got to know Jess when she was like little baby Jess. Mm-hmm. But then so I did some touring with her, and that's Natasha and I did that together. Mm-hmm. I spent a lot of time with Jess, actually, and then Idol was ending, and Stan won Idol, and for what reason I cannot tell you to this day. He just Gary and he just would make a beeline for us every day. He just like, come in, and Erin, like, we weren't supposed to talk to the contestants, really.
Oh, right.
But for some reason, Hayley Warner, who came second, is still one of my best friends in the world. And Stan, like, they just would not leave us alone. And we used to get in a bit of trouble for that. But it's like, what do we do? We can't just ignore them when they come and say hello to us.
Tell them off.
You know?
Tell them to go away.
Yeah. To get lost.
Give me a break.
But, yeah, that's how the whole relationship with Stan kind of started. He was like, you're going to sing for me forever. Oh, yeah. And I was writing my own album. I remember 2008 I was in the middle of all these gigs because I started to get quite busy in that kind of 2006 to 2008 period. Mm-hmm. It was Stan, it was Jess.
Right.
So I was pretty, thankfully busy, but always in the back of my head is like, when am I going to write myself a record? Right. I need to just, and then it just became a bit more like, I actually just need to release something and move forward. It wasn't even about like, those kind of 18-year-old, like, I'm going to be a star. It was just like, I need to do this for myself. Yep. Because I'm going a bit crazy.
Need to scratch that creative itch and get it out there.
Yeah. Yep. And I think it was because I was singing for other people it made it a bit more frustrating for me at that time. Mm. And so I bit the bullet, and Rich and I wrote a record, and it was just a self-titled record. But the funny thing is when you release your own music, you realise your strengths and your weaknesses.
Right.
And I think mine was my strength was, my weakness I think was that I didn't follow through very much. Like we did the record and then I kind of just, it was like, okay, now it's time to push. I just didn't really.
Oh, right. You thought oh, my bit's done. My bit's done. I sang.
Here's the record.
Yeah. Everybody buy it.
Everybody love it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh man, when you come to that realization, like, oh, the work is not done, because the thing is, it's when it's self-funded and you're doing it all yourself, man. And then you're touring as well.
Yep.
And doing a TV show, and not that they're not all great things, but they're things that keep you very busy and make you extremely tired.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time the product came out, I was like, what do you mean I got to like do stuff with this now? And then put on a live gig. I mean, I did a couple of live gigs and they were just so buzzy. Like I still count them as some of my best gigs just because I had my friends around me playing and they were playing my songs. But I think now I know what my strengths were and that you need a team. Now I understand what the record companies, it's like, oh, that's what they do.
Right.
Like they help you with the follow through and the push and when you're tired. But when you're doing it all yourself, you kind of don't have that luxury. You don't have the machine behind you. And then gigs started to come in. So there was a lot of, I don't want to say distractions, but they kind of were to your own stuff. It just kind of like, oh, okay, I got to go tour now, so can we just put this on hold? You know, and I was having, the thing is, if I was having a rubbish time, I wouldn't have done it, but I was having so much fun touring, you know. Yeah. I realised like, oh, I love this. This is fun.
Yeah. And so you were touring with Jess.
Yeah.
And Stan.
Yeah, I did a couple of like New Zealand tours. Hi, New Zealand. I'm just your biggest fan.
Awesome.
It's like second home. Yeah, so I was touring with Jess and Stan.
Yep.
At that time. And then I don't know where I'm at. That was Idol.
And you got Ricki Lee here as well on your...
Oh, yeah, Ricki Lee.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'd already worked with her on the Divas.
Oh, the Divas, of course.
Divas.
Yep.
And then I was doing her stuff and I just remember being really super busy that thinking about my own stuff had just kind of fallen away and then the years passed by and it's like 2010 and that's when I got a call from Carl Zimataga again, who was Guy's guitarist, saying, hey, do you want to come and do this corporate gig with Guy in Hamilton Island? And I was like, cool. He's like, yeah, here's a list of 30 songs that he may or may not do. And the gig was like 2 days away.
Oh, geez.
And I was like, okay, just in my usual calm. I was like, cool, no worries. Yeah, thanks. And I just got over, I was like, oh my God. And there was a couple of duets in there and I'm like learning these duets. And then we get to the gig. The reason I remember this is because this is how I kind of started back with Guy. Right. We went and did this gig, sang a couple of songs, and he looked at me after the gig and he goes, hey, so why did we stop working together again? And I was like, I don't know, bro. We're just life.
You tell me, man.
You tell me.
Yeah, I was still.
You didn't hire me. No,
I was still here. Yeah.
I've been here. And then he goes, yeah, that was dumb. Anyway, do you want to just sing for me from now on? And I was like, okay, sure. And at the time, I was just thinking, cool, it'll just be some corporates. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was from that point that he completely changed his image and like his branding, and he had like Art of Love, all these massive hits. Because that period between Idol and like when he kind of made a resurgence, he was kind of quiet. So I just thought it was going to be a couple of gigs here and there.
Yep.
No.
Just blew up.
From that moment, it was like we did tour after tour after tour, and I'm still here.
Right.
I mean, we've known each other for a long time, but it's since 10 years now of solid touring with Guy. And when I say touring, like, he tours. He does a lot of touring. And he does the regionals, you know?
Yep.
So he gets out there.
You did a support act gig with Chris Brown? With Jess.
With Jess.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. See, lucky you have this info. I forgot.
I'm just interested to know about what he was like, what Chris Brown's like, because he's a bit of a douche these days. I'm saying that he's not going to hear this.
Look, it was a very short meeting, but that whole kind of run of gigs for me was a bit of a blur, just because my dad had passed at that time. It was 2011, yeah, and we had this tour, and I remember ringing Daryl, and I said, "Hey Dee, listen, my dad died yesterday." I was like, "You're gonna have to just listen and not talk, because I won't be able to get through. My dad's died yesterday. I know we got this tour next week. I'm coming to rehearsal." It was a Monday. I rang him on Tuesday. I said, "I'm coming to rehearsal tomorrow. I just would appreciate if you just didn't tell anyone."
Was it a sudden thing, or was he? Oh,
yeah. It was pretty sudden. He had just pains. We knew that he was in a bit of pain, but he was in the hospital for a week for an operation. But his blood pressure was too high, and then he just went into cardiac arrest. That was it.
Oh, jeez.
But Daryl's a legend, because he just didn't say a word, and we went about our business, and we did the rehearsals. And Daryl said, "Are you sure you can do it? Because I can get it changed." I was like, "No, I'm ever the professional." I was like, "No, flights are booked. It's my dad's. We're burying him on Monday, and I'll see you on Wednesday." And he was like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "Daryl, don't ask me." And then, so I did that tour, but it was just all, I don't know if Jess knew either. I had asked Daryl to just not say a word to anybody. I just wanted to, I don't know if that was the right decision, like looking back, but going straight into work again, because at the time, just before he passed, I was so busy. This was at a time where it was just like Stan, Jess, Guy, Stan, Jess, Guy. Like, my diary was just nonstop. And I don't know now if that was the right thing to do, but I did it, and I got through it. But Chris Brown just said to me, "Come on, Chris Brown's coming right now." I was like, "Right now? Do you want me to leave?" She's like, "What do I say? What do I say?" I was like, "You don't need to say, just say, 'Hi, my name's Jess. Thank you so much.' Like, just be you." Not that she got a chance, because he walked in the room and there was about 20, like an entourage of 20.
Yeah, right.
And he was like, "Yeah, hey, how you doing? How you doing? Thanks so much for coming. Okay, sweet. Okay, thank you. Bye." That was it. And Jess was just standing there in just shock. What? But he had like something like 4 supports.
Oh, right.
Like, it was Jess, it was someone else. It's like, who needs that many support acts?
So did he have those amount of acts so he could just have a nice short show?
Yeah, it was a pretty short show. It was about 80 minutes.
Yeah.
70 minutes maybe. Yeah, but at that time, I don't know, 2011, I don't know where he was in his career, but it was just, I don't know, it was that quick. It was literally 5 seconds. And I said, "Well, at least you don't have to worry about what to say."
Yeah, that's it.
She had no chance to get a word in.
Right.
So can I tell, that's all I know about Chris Brown.
That's cool. That kind of paints the picture. That's the picture that I kind of had.
Yeah, I mean, he's a young guy that was just at the top of the charts, and that was it.
Yeah. So 2012 was the Galaxy Tour with Stan and Jess.
Yes.
Right. So talk a bit about that.
They had just released a single, I think, that year, and I had secretly, not really told anyone, auditioned for The Voice that year as well. So it was in between, like, thinking about auditioning, or maybe I'd know. I think I'd already auditioned, but no one knew. So in the meantime, I was just continued working. And
sorry, just on the audition, did you audition off your own bat, or did you have somebody approach you and ask you why did you go on
somebody
audition?
Somebody approached me.
You. Yeah, okay.
They made the kind of they rang me and basically asked. And at that time, that year my dad had passed. I got married in the October. So I was just like, I don't know, do I want to? Whatever, nothing much is happening. Sure, it was. I didn't put that much thought into it, just because I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what The Voice was. But I was like, it definitely was pitched to us. This is about singers, and it's not like the other shows. And but I had a healthy distrust. I was just like, okay, sure. Okay, I'm going to take your word for it. But I kind of, in the back of my mind, was because I had worked on Idol and I had seen the kind of machine that it was. I just kind of went, it'll be fun. I'll just give it a go. Why not? And they kind of had said, this person's going to do it. This person that you know is doing it. This person that you know is doing it. So I just was like, yeah, all right, cool. I'll give it a go. So by the end of 2011, I was just like, okay, whatever, let's just go. So then the auditions came around, and man, I haven't spoken about The Voice since The Voice.
Good, that's why we're here.
No, this is cool. So then, I don't know if you know what happened to me on The Voice, but
so for a start, for the auditions, the blinds, you had all 4 chairs turned, right?
Well, yeah, I did. I mean, whatever the hell that means. It's like, I sang it. I remember the producers, because you had to kind of go in there with like what you thought you might sing. And at that time I was doing like my fun kind of covers band, and I always did How Come You Don't Call Me by Prince.
Yep.
Prince, everyone, Prince. Not Alicia Keys, Prince. No, because that they were like, the Alicia Keys version. I was like, no, the Prince version. But they kind of were like, yeah, that's a cool song. Why don't you sing that? So there wasn't too much discussion. It was all very secretive. So I was like, okay, cool, whatever, I'll sing it. And you're allowed 2 people to take there. Now, look, I can say this now. I did the audition, but I remember at the time, I can say this honestly now, that Rich was like, I don't want a part of it. And only because I was probably, if not the last person to sign the contract, because Rich was going through it with a fine-tooth comb. And he was like, the whole time he was saying to me, baby, this is airtight. You are 300, if they choose to sign you, you are 360 degrees signed, sealed, management, everything, whether you like it or not. They take a bit of everything. Sorry to burst the bubble of people who are listening right now about this stuff, but it is what it is. And so he said, if you're willing to take that risk, I'm going through this contract. And he was back and forth with the lawyers going, what's this clause? Why is this in there? Why are you taking it from this? And at that time, it was a collective. So if one got their contract changed, then everyone got a change at that time. And he got some changes, but he was like, look, are you sure you want to do this?
Mm.
And I said, yeah, but, because I know Rich and how much he respects and loves me, that he was just like, I can't watch it. I don't want to watch this, because if they don't turn, I'm just going to punch a wall or something. And I said, no, sweet, I get it. I was like so cool about it. And to be honest, they had you there from like 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. some days filming. And me being 27 or whatever I was at the time, I knew that was just TV tactics to make people tired and frustrated and get reactions that, you normally probably wouldn't have, to make you angry. And so I took my mum and my sister, because I just knew that they would be coming, whereas Rich would have not wanted, if they told him to say something, he would have been like, no. And I respect that. I'm like, cool, man, don't come, because I know you won't be happy to be there, and that's fair enough. So my mum and my sister came. I just chose 2 people that I knew were going to make me feel happy and relaxed. And, of course, I wasn't on till probably 10 p.m. that night. And the cool thing was that the band were pretty much my band that played my originals all those years ago. It was Scotty, it was Dolce, it was it was Timmy Hartwig, it was a Trout, you would know. So I just felt like all my friends were playing for me.
Right.
And I remember looking at them, and Scotty just gave me a wink, and I was like, let's play the song we play every week. And the rest is history, I guess. It was cool. I mean, it was cool, but it was just, I don't know, it was a weird feeling. It was like, okay, I'm just singing the song I sing every week. It was a very short time, I've got to say that.
Yep.
I didn't have enough time to really make any kind of impact.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the controversy then. Right. So
the controversy.
Right. So they said that you officially broke the spirit of the rules. Right. So how did that all go down?
Okay. So the controversy. Well, obviously they called us, so they knew that we were all working musicians, the ones that were. And so a guy called me. He was like, Carmen, can you come do this session for me? Like, it's for my new stuff and like a couple of BBs. So I went in that night and I did maybe 3 songs. And then a couple of days later, he was like, come have a coffee. Meet me near my studio, in Surrey Hills. And so I did, and he's like, hey, Carmen, do you reckon you could sing like, oh, no, I'd already done the vocals for this song called Gold.
Okay.
But at that time, it was just a song. That was one of the songs in the session. And then he goes, hey, look, I want to have a coffee with you. And so I had a coffee with him, and he's like, hey, look, Dennis Hanlon wants to release Gold as a single. I was like, cool. And he was like, with you on it. And
so,
like,
sorry, who's Dennis? Is that he's the manager?
Dennis Hanlon is no, that's Sony's like the head.
Okay.
CEO,
right.
Or,
gotcha.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
He was like, yeah, he loves the song and he reckons that's the single. I was like, okay, cool. So when and what? And he said, originally, like we were pitching it for, he was trying to get like a name artist on that song, and my vocals were to be like the demo. And then what happened after that? Yeah, it didn't happen that way, and it was just all very casual, as sessions are. And I said, okay, cool. And then we just didn't talk about it really much after that. And then the show aired, because I don't know if people know, but sorry to burst your bubble, it's not live. The blind auditions are not live anyway. And so that all went to air. And then in that time somewhere, Guy was going to release Gold. And it was like, I was probably a bit naive in that way, but I just was like, do we need to release it now? Like now? So I'm just about to go into lives because I'd already done the battles. You know you know how you battle someone.
Yep.
And I'd won that, and so I was about to go do some lives, and then it just, I don't know how it happened, but it was like, because in the contract you are still allowed to work, so officially I was just doing some work, and then it was like, oh, can you come do the video? And I was like, okay. For me, it just felt like, all right. And so I went and did this video, and then Rich and I get a copy of the video, and we saw the video, and it was just like
front and center. Hey,
could it speak to me anymore?
Yeah, that's right.
I just remember Rich and I, both of us, just were like this by the end of it.
Where you going? I think we're in the shit.
And I just said to Rich, do you reckon I'm in some deep shit right now? And he was like, you look awesome. I was like, thanks, babe. And so then it got to this kind of build up, and then it was like, it's time for your sessions with your mentors on The Voice, and it was kind of the first week that we were going to do our lives. Mm-hmm. And I get set up, and it was taking forever. I don't know why they were taking so long, and then all of a sudden I'm taken into this room, and it was basically them going, you can't do that. And Joel, my coach, Joel Madden, was saying, you know, if this was the real world, then you'd get sued. And there was a whole lot of expletives that got cut out because I was like, are you effing serious? Turn the microphones off. I just turned into like Mount Druitt girl, straight out of Mount Druitt. I was like, what? What the heck? You don't know me. And I just, all right, well, what do you want to do? Like, you clearly you've all made your decisions. And he's like in his ear listening to the producers. I was like, stop talking to the producers and tell me what you want to do. You're going to kick me off? What are you doing? So then it just became this whole thing. And then they basically came in and said, you know, you can't be on the show. And their official statement was that I broke the spirit of the rules. Now, thank goodness that Rich had gone over the contract, because there was all these clauses in there that actually they couldn't say that I had broken. And for me, it was just like, well, hang on a second. You're saying that it's an advantage for me, but there's Delta's backing singer, you know, but there was all these comparisons that they were making. And I was like, well, hang on. You can't say that kind of stuff and then have all these people on there that make it an advantage over someone else, you know. But it was definitely, for me, if I can look back, there was probably TV wars going on as well. I was on the X Factor, I was on The Voice, you know, so there was all this politics that I probably to this day don't know about.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I just remember, because The Voice was being filmed in the Fox Studios, and Guy was doing a show at the Horden coming up, which is right next door, literally. Yep. So every day I would come in for filming, because these are long days where you're not doing much. There's lots of promises that just never come to fruition.
Mm.
Oh, we might have an interview. Oh, there might be this. It's like, oh my gosh, I'd rather just go work, honestly.
Yep.
You know, for the teenagers that are excited and new to it all, they're like, yay. But for me, it was like, this is a bloody 12-hour day. Are you kidding me? Mm. And I would pass every day and see the picture of Guy's tour that I was supposed to be on, but couldn't because I was on the show. And I just remember my heart sinking a little bit, thinking, I miss live gigging.
Yeah.
I just this whole thing of waiting around for 12 hours to sing a minute of a song is just killing me.
Yeah.
I don't care enough about this.
Yeah.
And so it just felt like when all of it all came out, and it was like all over the news for like 2 days, because, you know, news is over like that.
Yep.
I was like, oh, people get over this, whatever. And then I remember ringing Guy literally the day that it happened, because I was quite shocked and upset, as you would be, even though, you know, I was just like, it's a TV show, but it was just like the way that it happened felt really not nice.
Yep.
So he rang me and he was like, Carmen, I'm so sorry. I did, like, never in my wildest imagination could I have thought that they would do this ever. Which, you know, I look back on it now, I'm like, I was the first and only to ever be disqualified. I am.
Wear that badge.
And so, you know, that was hard. It was hard for my family.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, they were, you know, they're my champions. So they were just like, that was hard for me. See, I get emotional thinking about it. That was hard for me to see them, like, so upset for me, because I think, you know, seeing their baby sister on the television finally singing for herself, it was like, oh my God, yes. You know, and we'd all lost Dad. So it was all like, oh my God, Dad would want this for you, because, like, my dad was just like, my dad lived in a place where it was like, he was so loved me and what I was doing so much that he couldn't understand that why I was singing for other people. It was a real for a little while it was a source of frustration for him.
Yep.
But you know, like I said, it's hard to explain the industry to my dad. You know, he's just seen his daughter, who he thinks is the shit, and she's not singing out there at the front, which he felt like I should be. And there were moments where I was like, Dad, you can't, it doesn't work like that. The industry just doesn't work because you think I'm great. There's a shitload of great singers out there. There's timing and there's luck and there's all these things, but for him it was like, no, I don't care about this stuff. You should be in the front. So I think we had lost Dad, and then all this stuff happened, and my family were like, yes, Carmen's gonna win it. You know, and I didn't have the heart to go, no professional singer's going to win this. Until, of course, Diana.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's a many, many years later.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that whole experience was a whirlwind of emotions for everyone. Yeah. But I had fun. I met Diana on there, and I had fun for like the 2 months or whatever that we were there.
Yep.
Not even. Yeah.
And then a bit after that, you ended up doing a bit of a mini tour with Diana.
Yeah, I think we kind of connected on some level of just singing, and, you know, I mean, I'm sure you know how good she is.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, Rich and I actually kind of thought, sorry, just to backtrack.
Yeah.
But straight after that call with Guy, he just kind of said, I said to him, do you think I can come back on tour? Because the tour was like in less than a week, I think. And he was like, absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. So for me, like, in some respects, like, a lot of the people that go off those shows can't get back to work straight away. They're in contracts of some. But for me, it was like, once that whole controversy happened, I was just let go completely.
So just cut ties completely.
Which was actually amazing for me, because I could just get back to work, which is what I wanted.
Yep.
And so I did. I went on a national tour with Guy. And then after that is when Rich and I were like, we should do a little run with somebody. Like, you should do something with someone off The Voice. And I was like, Diana, this is amazing. And it was a pretty successful run, I would say. Like, Rich and I came up with the idea of just like, we each do our own music, a set of our own music, just with a guitarist. So I did it with Rich, she did it with her partner, Eric. And then we came together in the end and just did a few songs.
Cool.
Just acoustically, because it just meant that we could get our music out there, sell merch, and maybe make some money from it, which we did. It was pretty good. We broke even. But that was really fun because it just meant that we could talk to an audience, which I hadn't done in so long, so many years. Yeah. And I realised that I loved it.
Mm. Do you think with that whole controversy thing and being kicked off the show probably raised your profile a little bit?
Oh, for sure. I mean,
I know for me, because I remember when it happened.
Yeah,
it certainly for me looked like it raised your profile and made me interested in your career.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you probably got a whole new legion of fans from that, eh?
Yeah, fully. I mean, I think most people felt for me.
Mm.
They just felt like that was a bit unfair. I think most people kind of saw through it for what it was, and I felt happy that I suppose I did those 2 songs on that show, and I showed what I can do in some respects.
Yep.
And it didn't hurt that I could go straight back to Guys Gig.
Right, that's cool.
Like that's just, and sing gold every night. You know. Yep. So like, yeah, for sure it did, and I think that's why we wanted to do that run with Diana. It was like it was still fresh in people's minds, the voice. So it was like, let's just hit this and hit it hard.
Mm-hmm.
I had music. I had been working on new music, so I had music ready to go. Yeah, so it all just kind of flowed from there. So I had a little break of original music, but then I don't know, I must have had like a little hit of creativity, and I released a whole heap of songs in 2012 and 13.
Yeah, and one of them was Breaker of Hearts, and the video clip for that is dope. That's so cool.
Shannon.
I remember when it came out, and it seemed so original. It's a little bit twisted too, eh, that clip?
Yeah, that's because my friend Shannon, I don't know if he's on this Instagram, but I met Shannon weirdly. See, I didn't put this in my bio, but I met him when I did. I just decided to do a little amateur production of Rent, and I played Mimi, and he was like one of the creatives there, and he's just this genius brain, and he did the animation, the whole story. He was just like, I've got it, and I just, because I trust his creativity, I think he's a genius. I just was like, do your thing. And like my brother's in that video. He's the guy with the like Fijian tats. And he
right.
That's my bro.
He's like sitting on the couch at the start.
Yeah. And he even
and the little sis leaves, and then he rocks up at the end in the golf cart or whatever. Brilliant.
Because he's like my friend Shannon has taken all these like images of my mum's house. Like he's made it look like my mum's house.
Right.
Like the detail I would only pick up on, like, right, because I know him and he knows me.
Right.
But like he even got pictures of my brother's tats and copied it exact.
Oh, wow.
It's insane. But I'm glad that you mentioned that song, because he would so appreciate that you liked that video, because it's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. And the fat, greasy sort of guy, who was he? Was he made after somebody or?
Yes.
Right.
Can you guess who? It's that what's his name? Is it Ron Jeremy?
Oh,
Ron Jeremy.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that whole era was a little bit, and funnily enough, people think I was writing those songs to be a bit of an FU to the voice, but honestly, I'm not the type of person to hold on to too many things like that. It's like it was what it was, and this music was actually written because the first single that I released after The Voice was They Don't Know Me, and it was like, they don't know. It was all attitude, but it actually was written maybe 6 months before The Voice.
Right.
It wasn't really an FU. I don't have those kinds of I'm pretty tenacious. I'm just like, okay, it happened. Let's keep it moving. Life goes on. people don't care that much, I feel.
So 2013, it's off on another tour with Guy.
Yeah, oh, mate, that was huge. That was 54 dates or something. Man, that was, but it was with David Ryan Harris. Do you know David Ryan Harris?
Not personally, no.
He plays, for those of you who don't know, he plays for John Mayer. And he is just an insanely amazing, Guy knows him because they wrote a lot of songs together. But he's just an insanely amazing artist. And to do a massive tour like that with somebody of that, just that much talent and experience is one in a million. It's, you know, a chance of a lifetime. But yeah, the regional touring was so, I mean, I think it's my favourite kind of touring. It's because you got these like little intimate audiences and they don't get those kinds of shows. The show we put on, man, Guy shows are like no joke. It's two hours plus of nonstop. It's so yeah, that tour was but it's intense. It's like it was more than 3 months away from home. That was hard. But that was before child.
Yeah, right. And you also went to Eurovision with Guy.
Yeah.
Oh man, what was that like?
Man, that was cool. Because none of us really knew if he was going to take anyone with him or what the deal was there. Then I ended up getting the call. I was like, "Are you serious? Oh my god!" And we did it with 3 other friends from Guy that Guy knew from the US singers. But there was a lot of choreography. I mean, this was serious planning. You know, it was like choreographer in the US, and it was all like video rehearsals. And then we got there, and I don't think I've ever rehearsed a song longer in one song ever in my life. It was like, I think it was felt like 2 weeks of rehearsing.
Yeah.
But, you know, the thing is, I don't know if people realize, but it was like you're only allowed 5 people, including the actual act, on stage.
Right.
There's no more than 5 people on stage. It's completely live vocals, so no one's allowed to be. There's no miming. It's all live. And then there was all this choreography happening, and it was Australia's like first year into Eurovision competing. So it was just like, whoa, man, this is some pressure. But I don't know, it just felt like every time it was like Australia, and you had to, because there's all these rehearsals with crowds. The crowd is in there, but you're rehearsing.
Oh, right.
So it was just like every time Australia was mentioned, because we were new the first year, it just felt like, I felt like, is this what it's like to be an athlete at the Olympics?
Yeah. Yeah.
Every time we walked out, I was like, go Australia. The flags, people were losing their minds. And I just said to Guy, this just doesn't feel real to me.
So was it in an arena, or was it in like a right?
So it was we were in Vienna,
right,
and it was this huge arena, but the how do I say it, like the whole technical side of it is like you would walk through this hallway, and then you would go into a room, and they had your photos up there, and then they would give you the correct mic because it matched the photo that they had on the TV screen. And it was just like, wow. There was no room for error, no room. And then our rehearsal happened, and I remember the choreographer, when you've been rehearsing something for like 2 weeks, and then the choreographer, I think the move was something like clicking our hands or something, and then she was like, guys, we've just realised it's not working, we need you to change it for the grand final. And I was like, my brain almost exploded. I was like, it was something simple like that instead of that. But when someone's like, when you drilled it into your head and now at the last second you want to change it, I was like, I'm going to screw it up. So
was it somebody from the Eurovision management was saying that doesn't look good or something? Or Guy's crew. Like, okay, right.
The choreographer, they were like, we're just thinking that this move doesn't work. And I'm like, why did you tell me this a week ago? At that point, it seemed simple, but when you've got that pressure and the TV and the live and the Australia's first year, and it just felt like the whole country was watching us.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. But man, I still count that as one of the most fun things I've ever done. Ever. So fun.
Very cool.
So good. Yeah. Really cool.
Very cool. Okay, so it was back home after Eurovision, and it was back on another guy tour, the You Me Us tour.
Oh, actually, It would have been the Madness tour.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And then it would have been the You Me Us tour.
Okay.
Yeah, that was fun because it was a Melbourne-based band,
mm-hmm.
so everyone was from Melbourne except me
mm-hmm.
At that time.
Yep.
And that was cool because I met a whole heap of musicians, and I think that's where the seed kind of got planted. Like, because I've always loved Melbourne. In all my travels, I'm like, man, Melbourne is the bomb. I think it planted the seed. Like, oh my gosh, even the musos are beautiful. Not that they're not awesome in Sydney, but I think when you're born and raised in Sydney, it's like, okay, I don't know. It just felt like I was in a little bit of a rut maybe, and I just needed a change. But then I met these boys who are just like, they're my family now. And yeah, we did that run of tours, and then that was it. After that, I rang Gary and I was like, can I come hang out in Melbourne for a bit? He's like, yeah, of course. You know, the most, I don't know, you need to get Gary on this show. He's just the best stories and the best human ever.
Cool.
I said, can I come stay over? And he was like, yeah, come. And after 3 weeks, I was still there. And Rich was like, are you never coming home? And I was like, you need to come over. And so I came over and Gary lent me a car and I was just driving and I was like, we're going to go to this place. And Rich was like, do you live here now? And I said, I just feel like I do. It just feels so natural for me, this place.
Yep.
And and that's kind of we planted that seed. I planted it in Richie's head, and then by 2017, early 2017, we were here.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that it was, I don't know if it was the music scene or I just needed a change, I think. Yeah, and I was up Melbourne, so why not?
And then you started doing a few gigs and, another tour with Guy, and there was a George Michael tribute, and that was back with Natasha and Gary and Jade.
That gig is a highlight.
Right, okay.
Sure.
Let's go.
That gig had Diesel on it. Like, there was a whole heap of lead singers, kind of acts, superstars, whatever you want to say. It was Sam Sparrow was on there, which I was quite nervous about because I've been a fan. Who else? Diesel, Brendan McLean, David Campbell. Who else? I can't remember. But Gary, Natasha, Stewart, Jade McRae and myself were doing the backing vocals. And Paul Gray was the music director on that show. And he rang me and I was like, oh my gosh, couldn't get a better bunch of singers to do BVs for this. Not to talk myself up, but those three, oh my gosh. So we started, and weirdly, I've known and seen Jade for years, but we had never, ever worked together. And so that was the time where it was like, okay, we're finally going to get to do this. And man, best. It was just the best. She was like, how have we not worked together before? And I was like, I don't know, because I'm amazing. No, actually, I felt like I was just class clown. I was cracking jokes the whole time. But that show, the particular show we did, was the show that George Michael was coming to do before he passed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we were actually doing the arrangements, everything that were going to be the show. Far out. It was just 4 nights of unbelievable singing. And, like David Campbell, Diesel, Sam Sparrow, it was just such a good show. It was such a good show. But for some weird reason, it was supposed to go national, and then it did come back, but a year later with completely different people.
Right. For
whatever reason. But in that short time, I became really, really great friends with Sam Sparrow. and he came back and we hung out. It's just, he's the most beautiful. I was like, I knew we were meant to be friends. I didn't know you, but I just knew, I could feel it. And we still speak. He's just amazing. But that whole gig, I count that as one of the highlight gig for sure. Just the sound of the four of us singing, because we were doing leads as well. Like Jay got up and did some stuff with David Campbell. I did duet with Sam Sparrow. The three of us girls did Too Funky together. It was so much fun. It was, and I forced choreography on everyone because that's what I do.
Yeah.
So that I put that in there because I still just think about that gig and it makes me smile all the time.
And something else was going on around that time that you didn't realise at the time.
Oh my gosh, what an idiot. Okay, this is the thing. I like to exercise, so I was just kind of keeping fit, and I remember seeing a little like extra bulge on my tummy, and I was like, oh, work harder, Carmen. So I went hard that time with the George Michael thing. I was like working out hard. I was like, what is with this? And then I just ignored it till about the end of July. And then I was like, I think it was Rich that said, babe, do you think you might be pregnant? I was like, don't be, oh my God, I might be pregnant. And so I went and got about 5 tests, and sure enough.
Wow.
Yeah, I was pregnant. And I remember telling Rich, and he said, are you happy? And I was like, I've got so many kids this year. That was my first thing. It was like, oh my God, because I had just moved to Melbourne, and like, I don't know how, just luck would have it. See, luck.
Yep.
I got I got asked to sing with Tina Arena, like in, I don't know, June or something. And I was like, I've just moved here. It's amazing. And I was getting to know the local music scene here, and then I was pregnant in the really crappy part of pregnancy where you're sick and stuff. I had to do the Tina thing. You don't know how. I was so upset that I was feeling badly, because like Tina Arena is like the first live concert I ever saw in my life as a kid.
Right.
I was like 12. My sister bought me the tickets, and I remember saying to my sister, I'm going to do that. I'm going to sing with her one day. And so to be in this room and feeling, morning sickness, and I'm there singing Chains, it's like, oh man, I wish I could enjoy this moment more, but I want to puke. But I do remember being on stage, because, it was weird. Every time I was on stage, I didn't feel nausea. Everywhere else, I was sick.
Right.
I remember crawling to the car. Rich was like, you shouldn't drive. I was like, well, I have to get to the gig. But then every time I was on stage, but there was one time, I think it was in Melbourne, where I grabbed Gary's hand, because of course, I was singing with Gary.
Yeah.
I grabbed his hand, and I think he knew that I was like, I'm going to puke, and it was In Chains. We're singing like the best song ever, baby, baby, and I just like grabbed Gary's hand, and I couldn't sing. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to puke. And Gary's got this like crazy grip, and he just gripped my hands until it passed.
It passed. I was waiting for the moment. And
it passed. But
and then we get to the high point of the song, and I had to turn around and go, bleh. No, that didn't come.
God.
Bugger, man.
No. I'm far too professional for that.
Yeah, of course.
But then that year it was a busy year. I did that, and then I did another tour with Guy. We did another tour, and I was like, by the end of it, I was like 24, 5 weeks pregnant.
Yep.
6 weeks. And I was like, okay, I need a rest. Like, I actually just want to spend the last trimester just laying in the sun on the beach and doing nothing, because I'd had such a massive year. It was not to be, because my son came far too early, 10 weeks early. He was due in March, middle of March, and he came Jan 3rd.
Right.
While I was visiting family for Christmas in Sydney. So we were kind of stuck in Sydney for a month.
Oh, shit.
And then another month in a hospital here in Melbourne.
Right.
Because he was tiny. He was like 1.2 kilos. What do? You just have to wait for them to grow.
Yeah.
That was a hard time. Far out, man.
Sure.
It was like, I don't think I prepared myself at all. I just worked the whole time.
Right. So in hindsight, do you think you may have worked too much?
I mean, who can say?
Who can say? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
it's probably a dumb question, that one.
No, like, but maybe it was, but I wouldn't know now. But I definitely think once I had baby, and then you've got that time where it's just you and him because he's tight. Like, I was stuck. I was forced to stop for 2 months because I couldn't work, and and by the time we got him home, he was like a newborn born size.
Right.
Not even.
Right.
But he'd already been here for 2 months.
Right, gotcha.
And then I get home, and then I've got to do that whole, like, bonding and doing all of that stuff. Meanwhile, guy goes on a tour. Right. I know this sounds ridiculous, but I remember thinking, man, I felt like I was mourning my old life or something.
Right.
Because I went through these whole things of, like, people are going to forget me. No one's ever going to hire me again. You go through these stupid thoughts when you don't know.
Hormones too, I guess.
Yeah. Hey, poor Rich. Far out. But it was all of that, and then it was just like, I'm not working, because a lot of my identity was wrapped up in touring and gigging and being around people, and like, it's all fun.
Yep.
And then it's like, silence, and it's you and this baby, and they're your responsibility, and like, it's all you can think about day and night, and that's a lot. So I was just like, oh man, I don't know if this is ever. And then gigs started to come back in, and maybe when baby was about 4 months, 5 months, and I took it on after, because like, having a premature baby is quite a traumatic experience, and it was a pretty dramatic birth. But I think that maybe I probably could have slowed down and not taken so much work. I'm just putting in charge of him.
All good.
And I took on work quite early. If I think about it now, it's like, man, I could have probably just slowed down, but I think I was like, I want to work again. And so I just did. I started, but then I pulled back, and then it was 2019 was a big year. And I actually blamed myself for, I just took on way too much. I started saying yes to all these things.
Like extra stuff that you wouldn't usually? Right, like what? Extra.
Like David Campbell, Tim Campbell, like all these, like Tash was singing with Tim Campbell a lot.
Yep.
It's just all these one-off gigs. It was like I was learning these massive repertoires. And it's like, you've got a 1-year-old, and life is not before where you could just go, yeah, sweetheart, I'm going to do that and that and that and that and that. It was just like, oh my gosh, what am I doing to myself? And then Guy had his national tour, and then we went to Amsterdam in December. It was just like, and I just kept filling my calendar, and it's just like now, and I remember saying at Christmas time, just gone, I'm never doing that again. Like, I just don't ever want to feel like this. It was just constant. I was just racked with guilt because it was like, I've got to work because we need to pay our bills. But it was just like, did you need to take all of those gigs?
Yeah, right.
Probably not.
Right.
But there's definitely a habit. It was probably a habit of just saying yes. Sure, I can do that. It's like, it's not the reality right now or anymore. So I think I remember just making a promise to Rich and myself, like, I'm just never going to let myself work myself and stress myself out that much ever again, ever. And then, of course, as you know, this Natasha got sick again. 2000, we should mention that Natasha asked me to go with her on 2019. She asked me to be her support person on The Voice, which was an interesting call because I think she felt really weird about it. She's like, "Come, you don't have to do it." And like, I know that you had all this history with and I was like, "Sweet, I'll do it. I don't care. I'm fine." Like, as long as they don't try and make a story out of me being there.
Yeah,
like I'm literally there just to be your support person.
And did they try? Did they try it all? No, good.
No, because I think Natasha warned them, and also I'm pretty good. By that time, I was at an age where I wasn't so shy anymore.
Yeah.
I would have politely told them to F off.
Was there some of the same people there, like producers and that kind of thing? Yep.
Producers, not so much. Actually, yes, they were. Yes, they came to say hello to me. But the camera guys are all the same guys that work on all the TV shows.
Yeah.
So, and they're beautiful.
Right.
And I was fine. I don't care. Like, that's the thing, is like, I don't care and you don't care that much. We're all over it. It's fine.
That's it.
And I just felt like also so happy that Tasha asked me to even be there.
Yeah.
I was like, really? That is so, it was just a beautiful thing to have. And she, at that time, had only just finished chemo. So we had to be in a separate room away from everyone else because her immune system was still quite weak. And, yeah, that was a good day. But, yeah, of course, then 2020, January, I got the call from Emma saying that, Tash was in hospital and not doing so well. And the rest, as we know, is history. She didn't make it. But, and then I did a little run with Evelyn Champagne King in February this year, and then COVID happened. 2020
there's your break.
Go away.
And there's that break you're looking for too, eh?
I was like, that's what I said. I've always said, like, maybe I just spoke it into existence because, I suppose it was just more about me prioritising my time and going, I should do that. No, I shouldn't learn those 30 songs. Like, I don't have time for that.
Yep.
But I can do that little gig.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep, definitely.
But yeah, it's been a crazy time, hey?
Yeah.
I actually, I don't know what to say. I feel like it's hard for me to say this, and like, because we're only a few weeks in, but I not to be dark about it, but I actually think we're going to be in this for a while.
Yep.
A good while.
Yep.
And like, I said that to a friend the other day. I texted him and I was like, I actually think we're in this for potentially more than 6 months, especially the music industry. Like, that might be 6 months where we all get to like leave our homes for more than just going to the shops.
Right.
But then there's like the rebuilding of businesses.
Exactly.
Which we all gig in.
Yes.
Which potentially a lot of them can't come back from.
Yep.
I mean, who can come back from that? I mean, all the cafes have to reopen.
Yep.
And try and rebuild. That will take another 6 months.
What I was thinking about the last couple of days was, when we do get that green light to go back out and, clubs and pubs open and that kind of thing, the influx of band managers and booking agents and people all of a sudden seeing these new opportunities and just flooding all these places that they maybe would never have got a foot into last time. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah. Unless you're in a situation where you work with an established artist or artists, but I mean, there's still going to be a little bit of that. But I'm talking more about the musicians that play in bands that they're on the sort of the club scene and and they would sometimes some of those clubs they'll book twice a year. So they'll book at the start of the year and then they'll book in June. So then they'll book from June till December every weekend. All that's gone now. So once that sort of green light comes again, all that has to start again. So you get all these agents.
And that's the thing. I think there is going to be an influx of work, I reckon, when all this, but I think it's for it to feel like it's getting back to some semblance of normal. It's going to be a fair while.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be pessimistic about it. I think I'm just trying to be realistic about it,
for sure.
And go, okay. Because, I think I said this on my Instagram, like, it's going to be a long time. I don't know if people realise, but it's actually going to be a long time before they get to see their favourite international artists.
Yes.
Because, I mean, we can't open the borders.
Yeah, yeah. And then it's that whole rebooking thing again. Like, these international artists have to go through that whole planning stage, and And
I mean, if I try not to read too much anymore. When it was first happening, I was like reading,
same with me,
stressing myself out.
Big time. Yep.
But now I'm just thinking, like, I feel like this COVID is maybe not going to disappear until there's a vaccine.
Totally.
Like, social distancing is cool, and it's worked. Like, it's all of that's like flattening the curve or whatever they say.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, if we all just start going out again and there's no vaccine for this.
That's it. Exactly right.
And I mean, then the whole thing with airlines, like I feel like I've lived at an airport most of my career.
Right.
And it's like we don't have those things they're not, like, I mean, airlines are falling apart.
Yeah.
So I just think the rebuilding of things after the initial time when they say, okay, now you can go out, the rebuild from that is going to take ages.
Yep.
After the 6 months, if it is 6 months, I mean, that's a guess, isn't it?
Yeah,
and I'm saying 6 months, but
I think the people that are going to do reasonably okay at the start are the people that maybe had gigs booked for. Let's just say, for example, they relax things by September, October. There's probably a whole bunch of gigs just sitting there on hold at the moment that aren't actually cancelled. Just waiting.
Oh yeah, all those kind of festivals at the end of the year.
Yeah, or even even going back to club gigs and pubs and stuff like that. And even international artists, they haven't quite cancelled yet. They're just holding off. They'll be the winners, I think, to start with.
Yeah. I mean, and there will be, because eventually people are going to be just like dying to go and see live music.
Yeah.
But recovering, I don't know, I'm trying to be, and I think that's why I kind of was like, well, I have to do something. I have to keep singing, and I just kind of bit the bullet and just started doing some songs.
Yep.
On
Instagram. Yeah.
On my Instagram.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know why it made me cringe. I just think before I just was like, oh, it's just, but I think it's been a cool way to, and it also has forced me to get onto the keys again because, mate, I do you know how much I appreciate my band members, my bandmates?
Yeah.
Like, these guys, this is the thing about like working on a skill like your voice and performing, because like I love to perform, like actually perform.
Yep.
And to lose that, like that your job basically is like, it's hard to reconcile with that, because like I feel like I've worked my whole life to do this.
Yep, understand.
And then it's like, but then I'm like doing this sort of stuff, it's like, okay, well, if I'm upskilling, then that's good. That's a good thing, I guess.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know. I have to look at it like that, otherwise I'll go mad.
Yeah, true. There's one thing I want to mention, and it's got to do with Western Sydney, Tino Arena, and the Sydney Coliseum. There was you put up a
man.
It was an Instagram or a Facebook post.
It was Instagram.
Yeah, and it's basically your musical life come full circle. So,
man, okay. So the reason that it's full circle is, like I said, the first live concert I ever saw was Tina Arena, her Don't Ask tour, because I was a kid. And I said to my sister, I'm going to sing in a band. And then we came back, because Rooty Hill, for anyone who doesn't know, Rooty Hill's in the western suburbs. I went to school in Rooty Hill. It's near where I grew up. And it was just, I mean, anyone who's performed at the RSL, it was just an RSL club.
Oh, I don't know how many gigs I've done at the RSL.
Okay, like my year 10 formal was there. Like, this is how well I know the place. You know what I mean? Like, I know
and needed its own
back street.
Yeah, Rooty Hill RSL did need its own postcode. They tried for years, eh?
And so I actually did swimming squad at Rooty Hill RSL. So the car park that we used to like park in to go watch events there or whatever, they built this coliseum, like state-of-the-art coliseum. If anyone's ever been there, I think we were like the second gig in there. It's insane. It's so beautiful. It is. You just can't. I can't believe it's Rooty Hill.
Yep.
Can't believe it.
Yep.
So we did a show in December last year with Tina, a couple of shows, 2 shows, and like I just remember I was like, guys, you don't understand. Like down there is my primary school, and over there is my high school. Like I'm in my hometown singing with Tina Arena.
Yep.
I can't. I just it never got tired for me or boring.
Yeah.
I was just like, I cannot believe this. I can't believe this is my life.
Yeah.
I'm in my hometown.
Very cool.
My mum came and like Tina announced, and she was like, "Your very own."
Awesome.
Like, I almost got tears in my eyes. It's just, because in Rooty Hill, like growing up in the West, back in the 80s and 90s, it just felt like you were so far removed from any music or like live acts, or it wasn't around.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go to Penrith to go and learn to dance.
Right.
Like it was so far away, from everything. So like the fact that there's this state-of-the-art thing in Rooty Hill blows my mind. Every time I'm there, I pass there, I'm like, what is this? Because my whole family, like my family's still in the West.
Yep.
So it's awesome. It's a good thing because there's so much talent down that way, man. There's something in the water in the West. Just saying.
Sure is. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's
really
my full circle moment.
Man, that's awesome. And it's a really good way to end this too, I think. Carmen Smith, thank you so much for sitting with me tonight. And
my pleasure. It's been so fun.
It's been awesome.
To talk about myself. Oh my gosh.
and being my guinea pig for the Instagram live.
Oh,
that was cool, man.
Cool.
That was
cool. You should do that every time you do your podcast.
I don't know if I'll do it with everyone, but we'll see how we go.
That was so diplomatic.
Yeah. Awesome. Can't wait to actually meet you in person. Like I said, I saw you at Tasha's thing, and I think I did mention to you. I wanted to come and say hello, but it was the day. It was full on. There was a lot going on.
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
And I just want to say that I thought about Tasha today. I'm like, for me, I still can't believe that she's not with us. It's awfully strange world to think about it without her in it, but that's where I'm at. It's only been a few months, so yeah. But I did listen to her podcast.
Oh, cool.
With you.
Awesome.
And I think I've listened to it another 5 or 10 times.
Oh, great. Yeah. Awesome.
Just so I can hear her voice.
Yeah, that's great. That's really cool. Very cool.
But thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
It's been so fun.
Sweet as. Looking forward to catching up soon.
Yeah. In real life.
In real life, yeah. All right, Carmen, take it easy.
All right.
See you, mate. Catch ya. Bye.
Bye.